Hi, I'm Scott Simpson.
And I'm Sharla Steever.
And welcome to I don't know if this is the inaugural episode or the pilot episode. I guess we'll see if there's another one. If there's another one, then it'll be the inaugural. If it's a pilot, then it will be the failed pilot if there's not another one. But I don't want to set us off, expecting failure from the beginning.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be fantastic. Anyway, this is the inaugural or pilot episode of Humanity, Human-Shaped Learning, a video cast for teachers. And we're super excited. We've been talking about this for, how long have we been talking about this?
Probably a year or more.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, I think so. When we did a keynote a while back called Being Human, and it got us kind of thinking about this. And then after we planned it all, this crazy thing called the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. And suddenly our big keynote, and it was going to pull out all the stops. We were going to be on stage. I was going to have electric guitars, and there was going to be smoke and fire and stuff like that. And what were you going to be? You were going to be in
pretty
costume.
Boring in comparison.
Oh no. But anyway, so then it ended up being virtual, which was great.
It was.
I think.
And you can watch that.
You can watch. Yeah, you
we'll
can.
Share the link.
Yeah, we'll share the link for that. But that's where kind of these ideas started. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk. This is really the first episode, so we want to give you a sense of what this will be like. What we would like to do is hopefully make this an ongoing video cast, maybe weekly, maybe bi-monthly. Mm-hmm. But is bi-monthly twice a month, or is it every other month?
It can be both.
It can be both. Wow. So
you just have to define it.
We'll see. We'll check our ratings and then find out how often we should do this. So anyway, we both work at TIE, and that's why we have this gigantic logo here. Mm-hmm. The TIE logo, if you teach in South Dakota or probably even North Dakota, you know TIE. And we're both learning specialists there. We're not always going to, this inaugural first episode, we wanted to make sure we were here in front of the big logo, but we won't. We may go on the road.
We may.
I'd like to do this outside. We'll be in such
demand.
I'd like to do it outside.
Me too. I'd love that.
If the weather permitting.
Yes. So,
and then we might do it at Sharla's house. Mm-hmm. We might do it at my house. So we'll figure that out. But what we'd like to do is do something that'll be kind of encouraging for you. And this, the title kind of implies this is for teachers, but it's really for any educators, and really it's for anybody.
Right, for human beings.
For human beings. If you're a human being, now if you're a orangutan, better find yourself another video cast.
Or a manatee.
Or a manatee. Yeah, a humming manatee. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's pull that logo back up here. You might notice something strange about the logo. It looks like there's a letter missing. It looks like humanity or hum manatee or something like that. But it's actually, we kind of thought we'd be really clever because we wanted to get the TIE logo in there, And the TIE logo has, it's TIE, Technology and Innovation in Education. Mm-hmm. But they're all kind of turned into a singular logo, as you can see. But then there's that dot up there, which is the dot on the I. And when I looked up the symbol for a broadcast, it's got a really similar with the little line. So what we did is we made humanity, but we took out the I and the T and put in the TIE logo, and then made the TIE logo into a broadcast symbol. So, and then because we figured people wouldn't understand what the heck was going on, we decided to put human-shaped learning underneath that.
Right.
And so...
and that's really what this is all about.
It's really about, It's about learning and being human. And that's why I think it's probably really useful, hopefully, for teachers.
And I have noticed with most anyone I run into lately, and if I mention something about this work, almost always their response is something to the effect of, boy, don't we need more of that in our world today? Don't we need more humanity?
I think there's been, over the last few years in education, at least, and I say years, I really mean decades, it feels like things have gone in a direction of processes and everything. We've lost the core of who we are or why we went into teaching. I went into teaching because I care about other human beings. I care about my own children. I care about other people's children. I care about learning. I either had, really positive experiences growing up in school, or sometimes maybe I had negative experiences in school, and I want to make very positive learning experiences for other human beings, and yet we get lost in all the paperwork and data crunching and everything else.
Losing sight of that most important thing, which is the relationship. And I know, with all the teachers that we work with, and my own son is teaching currently, with the pandemic, it has been even harder to try to create that sense of really strong relationship and something, when you're apart from one another, when you are trying to connect through video right now. It's even more challenging to try to feel like you're in true relationship.
And I think it can be discouraging because I think we can think, oh, well, it's not possible. Okay, so now I'm having to connect with my students online. I'm having to connect through Zoom, or I'm having to do so much of it and so it's just not even possible. So just give up. But that's awful. That's an awful feeling to just resign yourself to it's not possible. So I think we're setting out on this saying, no matter what your situation, some of us are face-to-face, some of us are distance, some of us are doing a lot of virtual learning. But I think no matter what your situation is, I think you can bring that humanity into what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And that's not only important for your students, it's important for you. Because if you're a teacher and you've been hired in one of our states that we work with, you're probably a human being, because I don't see too many orangutan teachers.
You've got
or manatee.
On the brain.
I do. I've got it. Whenever I think of people, I think of the next closest thing as an orangutan. But really, I think genetically it would be a chimpanzee. That would be the next closest, probably so. That's probably getting us off. Here's what we'd like to do. We decided, because we're not really script people, we decided this would not be scripted, but it would have a trajectory, okay? An organizational factor, right?
Yes.
For how these episodes will play out. And I mentioned our keynote. There were 4 key pieces to that keynote. And what I think we're going to do is kind of move through those 4 kind of in a pattern from episode to episode. So we'll actually return to them. We're not just going to do 4 episodes, but we'll return to them. But I think within those 4 areas, we will really be able to explore lots and lots of really important and contemporary things going on right now that are really important. And so let's talk about those 4.
Okay. So when we thought about what does it mean to really bring our humanity into learning, into the school, into the classroom, we started with the individual, because each of us as individuals are learners. And each of us as learners are unique.
Yeah.
So when we think about having a classroom as a teacher, when you have that classroom full of students, if you've spent any time in a classroom, every single one of them is unique in how they're going to learn. Right. And some learn easier. Some, it takes different methods or modes of learning for them to really grasp on. Yeah. And I think one of the things that's most important as a teacher is to honor that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's more than, I know I'm a big fan of differentiation, but I think it's more than that. It's actually seeing those students, those individual students, in the way that they want to be seen, the way that they're presenting themselves. If they're excited about stuff, part of it is, as a human being, getting excited about the things that you're excited about. Right. Allowing you to some degree. I know school is also about getting with the program, but part of it is making the time to allow for those individual unique things to happen,
I can remember I was elementary, and so it's a little different when you have one class of students for the whole day compared to if you're seeing 100 and some every day. But being able to touch base as they walk in the door. Hey, how did your soccer game go last night? Or is your mom, is she about ready to have your baby brother? To be able to know something about them as individuals and that relational piece in place makes it then easier as we are instructing them, as we're spending time trying to get to know how are they learning best. That's like the trust level. When that trust level is present, then you can step in. They are more open with you about what they need as a learner, too. That's my opinion.
That was really slick, how you walked us from the first one, okay, which was uniqueness,
Right.
into the second one, which is relationship,
You're right.
okay, and development. And I think those two are connected anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Recognizing the uniqueness in someone opens the door for relationship. But relationship is that number two piece, and how important developing relationships are. And not just teacher-student relationships, but also creating an environment where student-to-student relationships are healthy. Inviting, I think, people who are not in the classroom all the time, but parents, family, community, having a relationship, sensing that we've got relationships going on. That's like the water we swim in, you know?
And I feel like in a classroom, when that's present, you can feel it. You can see it. It improves everything about what's happening in that classroom, including learning.
Yeah.
When students feel safe and they feel like they can trust the people they're with, and they can even make a mistake here and there and have it be received in a way that is not going to humiliate them, then they're able to really learn in a better way.
See, now she did it again. She segued us straight from relationship,
Right.
which is number two, straight into learning, relational learning, which is one of the things that we were super excited about as we were working on it. We knew very much that, and I think partly from both of our experiences as students, but also as educators, that uniqueness and that relationship were really important. But the research shows us that relational learning, when learning happens within that relationship, that's really the only place that real, solid, lasting, ongoing, lifelong learning can happen. It happens in the framework of relationship. And there's just tons of research to back that up. And just also, I think any teacher who's been doing it for any amount of time has plenty of anecdotal evidence of
definitely. That. Right. Otherwise it's sort of like memorization. It's sort of like just having to remember facts and having to be able to spit back out something that's been given.
Which brings me to my example. Okay, so I was going to do this, and I don't happen to have a jump drive, so I'm using this little dongle as an example of a jump drive. So this is but if I've got some information on my computer and I want to get it onto a jump drive, I just plug that thing in, and boom, the ones and zeros come over, and it's just transferred from there to there, and that is, we all know, not the way learning happens, because learning happens as we construct new knowledge as human beings, as individual human beings. And the way that happens between human beings or in a group of human beings is that individual human beings present something, okay? It might be a conversation, it might be a piece of writing, it might be song, it might be visual image, it might be a story, it could be lots of things. But what I have to do as an individual, I don't just receive that and tuck it away somewhere. I have to interpret it. I have to connect with it. I have to deeply understand it. And then I construct a new way of seeing myself, a new way of seeing my friend, my fellow learners, a new way of seeing the world based on this new stuff that came in. And so, that's why the relational learning piece is so important, because it provides the environment for me to construct. It's not just passing data from one place to another. It's reconstructing or constructing for the first time a brand new learning of something that I've gathered from a community of people.
And I would go even further to say it's impossible for another human being to just take on some information without it going through their own life experiences.
Right.
Whatever has happened to me in the past, whatever I have learned already, that's like the hooks that whatever you're bringing to me connect to me with.
Yeah.
And so I feel like as teachers, if we're not aware of that,
Right.
we're missing the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in order for a student to take in that new information, they have to have a place to put it, or
Right.
it won't stick.
That's right. That's right. So that brings us to the last piece, and really the last piece has to do mostly with recognizing we are all humans, and that requires a bit of self-care. Now, I think as teachers, as educators, we recognize that social emotional learning, making sure the environment is optimal for people being having their needs met, both their physical needs, but also their emotional needs, their social needs. But we need that too, because, like I said before, if you're a teacher, you're a human being. And first and foremost, we engage as human beings, and so we've got to take care of ourselves. One of the people that we're going to talk a lot about, because a lot of our work is based on his work, but that's Parker Palmer, and he suggests that we teach who we are. And so, if I'm feeling really empty, if I'm feeling really anxious or depressed, or I'm just out of sorts, I'm not in my optimal place to be able to be a good educator. And so it's really important, this is that number 4 piece, that not only am I aware of that for my students' sake, I'm aware of it for my own sake. Am I doing the things that I need to do for my own self-care? You know?
And, I can say as a teacher myself, and also as I watch my friends who are teachers now, my family who are teachers now, that state of exhaustion is real. It's even more real right now as teachers are navigating this new way of doing school.
Yes.
And so to not have that opportunity to take time for yourself to really rejuvenate. And I think schools who really get that are building that in to the day somehow, that there are breaks involved for teachers to truly just decompress a little bit.
And I was going to say, part of it is sometimes what we like to do is make this false division between professional me and personal me. And I think we do that maybe out of self-protection. I try to say, well, I'm going to put all my personal whatever, I'm going to put it aside because I'm going to go be the professional. I'm going to be the teacher, And we think that's helpful. And I suppose there are times maybe when I have to set aside something that's really important that's going on with me because I have to go and do my job. But that's not what we're talking about. To do that forever and to think that that's what being a teacher is really to set yourself up for absolute and complete burnout. You've got to address those personal things in order to be a professional. And vice versa, because those two worlds aren't separate worlds.
Right.
And right now in our world, with the pandemic, with concerns, with I have certain things that I do that are helpful, like taking my wife to a movie. And I haven't been able to do that for months. So that's one thing that I do that I can't do anymore. Going out to restaurants and sitting among a whole bunch of people, I can't do that now. And there are lots of other things, and I know everybody's got things that are impacting you personally. Well, over time, what is that doing to me as an educator as well? If I'm depleted because all the things that my go-to things for filling back up are, I can't go to them anymore. And our students are the same way.
Right.
And their parents,
And some, depending on your situation, if your family lost a job or lost your health insurance or whatever it might be, all of those things impact families even more. If you're dealing with how do I pay the bills each month and how do your students are taking that on. Families, maybe the parents aren't as involved as they normally would be because they had to take on another job.
Right.
And all of these things are a part of life, and we get through it, we make it through, and we persevere.
Yeah.
But it does take a toll.
Yeah.
And so it's important for us to know when it's time for us to take a moment and reconnect or recenter ourselves in a way that's healthy and can help us to continue to do that work.
So in this little humanity video cast, we're not going to offer any like silver bullets or big, massive, complete solutions to all this stuff because we don't have those. I don't have those. Maybe you do. I don't know.
No.
But what we are going to do is provide a time where we're going to look at a number of things that may be very helpful, and we're going to look at them in a kind of an ongoing way, a way that matches kind of what we have a tendency to do. We've facilitated a lot of retreats for teachers and done a lot of work in schools and work in classrooms and stuff. And we're going to use some of the tools that seem to be most useful and try to set it, which means we'll probably include some storytelling and maybe some music and song as well at different points. But one of the things that we're going to do, and we want to just real quickly before we get to the end of this inaugural episode, we want to demonstrate a couple of those things. And the first one is a third thing. Now, if you've been in one of our retreats, they grow out of the work from Parker Palmer, Courage to Teach. We do a thing called the Circle of Trust, and we'll probably go more deeply into that at some point. But one of the key things with this is a third thing. When people come together in a circle to engage, rather than just starting out with something, and we're going to talk about Sharla, we have this third thing. It might be a poem, it might be a writing, it might be a video, it might be a piece of art, it might be a song. But we begin by connecting with that. Mm-hmm. And then that helps us engage with each other.
Right. And so when we think about a third thing, just to kind of help you understand where that gets the name too, is, when I come to a circle, there's me as the individual. There is the group that's happening, that we're making together. And then there's this other thing that we are putting in the center of that. And that's why we call it the third thing. And it's that thing that gives us a focus, allows us to think about something so that we can kind of be pulled into a rich conversation with each other that is authentic and is not just dropping a bombshell in the middle and seeing how everybody reacts, but rather inviting people to engage with something.
Yeah.
And I think you can do it on your own as well. Some people like to journal. Some people like to take time where they maybe read a writing or a scripture or a something and spend time writing or thinking about it or walking with it or something.
Right.
And that could be one of the ways that you engage with the third thing as well.
Absolutely. So what we want to do in this episode is just give you a taste of that. Each of these episodes will kind of clarify where we're at in those big four things that we talked about, and then we'll move into a third thing that one of us will have chosen. So I think Sharla has chosen a third thing.
I
so
have.
We'll pull that up on the screen for everybody to take a look at, and we'll give this. I think we're going to give this a listen. Correct?
I think so.
All
we
right.
will take a listen to this beautiful poem by Wendell Berry, The Peace of Wild Things. And we have used this many times with teachers and others in circles of trust. And I feel like it's perfect for right now, where we are in the world and where we are maybe in life. And so we're going to take a listen to actually Wendell Berry, who's the author, speaking it, saying it. So let's take a moment and listen to what Wendell has to say.
The peace of wild things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
So after listening to Wendell Berry share this poem, I'm just struck by several of the things within the poem. And one of the ways we use a third thing is by creating a question that might help us think a little more deeply about it. And so when I look at this poem and I think about this poem, I'm struck by that idea of coming into the peace of wild things. And I live in the middle of nature, so do you.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate to do that. And one of the things I find most rejuvenating for myself is to step out of my door, out of the technology, out of the access to all those things that we have all day, and look around and look up and look at what's out around me. And, I notice the things that are out there, the wild things, the deer, the birds, the whatever animals might be there, the plants. And it does make you sort of wonder, I wonder what that deer is thinking. I don't think they're thinking about the kinds of things we think about. They're thinking about caring for their young, maybe, and finding food and a good place to sleep that night. And they aren't out into the future a long ways.
Yeah.
And so a question I might draw on for this poem is, where is your wild things located? Where is that place for you?
Yeah.
Where do you go for that peace?
Yeah.
And, if you're struggling to answer that, that's telling.
Maybe you need to find that. I think also, and just in connecting back with what we've talked about with humanity and being human, and we talked about discussing this and we didn't, but, the root word is hummus, which is the root word for humanity, for humility. It's connected with the idea of dirt. Honestly, it's connected with dirt.
Yes.
And so to me, there's something elemental, fundamental about reconnecting as a human being with the earth, with the dirt that I come from. No matter what background you come from, most origin stories, including the Genesis origin story, Creator has made us out of earth, out of dirt, and so there's something, I think, that helps us reconnect with ourselves as human beings when we connect with dirt, with the wild things, with the plants, the trees, just walking among the trees.
And the sun.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things I've been reading a lot about lately is just how to help your mood stay in a good place. And one of the things is vitamin D.
Yeah.
And our best place to get that is the sun.
Yeah.
Taking time. My grandma used to talk about that when I was a little girl. She'd say, got to get my vitamins. And she would step out to work in her garden or to do something outside, tend her flowers or something. And I always thought that was funny that she said that. But as an adult, I think she was right on. She knew exactly that when you step out into that sunshine and you let the sun just shine on your face for a little while, it causes you to feel better. There's something that absolutely changes inside of you.
You said you read about that. You didn't happen to read about that in that article that we're going to share, did you?
I don't remember if it specifically said vitamin D.
Okay, but it does talk about.
So
that she has successfully segued into the next section, which is, we're going to establish which of those four things that we're talking about. Okay, we're going to take a look at a third thing, and then we're going to take a look at either an article or some research that is connected with that third thing. So we're going to share with you right now an article that Sharla found that really does connect with this, and so we'll pull that up on the screen now.
So when we think about doing this kind of work together, it's important that we take time to just reflect and to spend some time with something beautiful, like a piece of poetry or a music or song, but also to know that there is some science backing it up when we are wanting to take it and maybe apply it in our classrooms. I think it's important that we know the actual research behind that.
Right.
And so one of the things we'd like to do with these podcasts is to share a little bit about pieces of research that we've found that support the thing we're talking about that day.
Right. Sometimes there'll be research, and sometimes they'll just be an article, but something coming from the community, thinking about these sorts of things, so that we can tie you into both something that maybe is inspirational and something that is maybe give you something to chew on cognitively a little bit as well.
Right.
So
I feel like this could have been Wendell Berry's background for writing what he did.
Absolutely.
Just looking at nature can help your brain work better.
Yeah, and this comes from the Washington Post. And it's an article that talks about some of the research behind this idea, why it's so incredibly important that we stay connected in with nature.
And I will say, as a classroom teacher, this is something that I did. By the time I was getting well into my career as a teacher, I was bringing this into my classroom daily, that we, whenever possible, stepped outside and looked up at the clouds and the sun and spent that time maybe just stretching a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I was amazed at how much better my students were able to focus. And when we'd come back in after that, I always usually taught writing or English at that time. And sometimes that could be hard to get kids to focus late in the morning. And it just wasn't. It was like a reset button, sort of.
Right. And I think sometimes we tend to be, we kind of tend to be either or people sometimes. I think we sometimes think that, well, either I'm the big technology guy that's doing all the exciting stuff with the computers and all that stuff, or I'm a total nature guy and I'm getting my kids out and we're getting our hands dirty. But for some reason, we don't realize that you can be both. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can be the technology guru. I mean, you can have your kids doing amazing, exciting things on screen with their computer, with new technologies, and be the person who is getting them out into the sun, into the woods, into the dirt, and those things go together. They accent each other. They complement each other. One makes the other one even better, and that in some ways is modeling that balance.
Right.
I think we all need.
It's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, when we are at our best, and I'll speak for myself here, when I am at my best, I am rested. I have had an opportunity to maybe do something I enjoy. I am ready to learn. I'm not so focused on a problem or an issue that I'm not able to engage with what I'm doing in that moment. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like when we're able to truly be present and centered, we're at our best for learning, for teaching, for whatever it is we need to do in that day.
Yeah.
And so taking time to get there is really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's worth it. Sometimes
Absolutely.
we feel like we're not worth that time, but if we don't care for ourselves, no one else is going to do it for us.
Yeah, sometimes we think if I just grit my teeth hard enough and just nose to the grindstone,
plow through.
And that doesn't work for very long. I mean, I recognize that there are times when you set aside something you'd prefer to be doing to do what has to be done, and that's fine. But doing that on an empty tank when your well is dry is not possible. And so ongoingly, for sustainability, you've got to make sure that well is full.
And really, that's what our podcast or our video cast is going to be about. We hope that these times that we come together will be opportunities for you to take a little bit of a break, maybe be given the gift of something to think about or reflect upon, and a little bit of learning, and then something motivational to send you off with. Right.
So, speaking of wonderful segues, what we'd like to do is we'll send you off with something. It may be a little something different each time, but what I'm going to pull up on the screen right now is a quote that I found that I'd like to just share with you in parting, and just to give you something to take with you. This is from C. Joy Bell C. And I really don't know who C. Joy Bell C. is, but
I like what she had to say.
I appreciate what she had to say. There is some kind of a sweet innocence in being human, in not having to be just happy or just sad, in the nature of being able to be both broken and whole at the same time. And that, I think, says everything about that balance. If I'm spending a lot of time trying to put a good face on it because I think I got to put a good face on it, I'm getting further away from being human, because sometimes being human is being happy and joyful and fulfilled, and sometimes being human is being sad or broken, or sometimes it's angry. Now, I have to make decisions about how I display that, okay? But to be human, I think, is to be real and to have that full palette. I think of it like being an artist. Like if you were an artist, but you only get to use the color blue, well, there's a lot that you can do. Yeah, sure. There's a lot you can do if you're just limited to the color blue. But there's so much you can do if you've got the whole palette. And fortunately, as human beings, we've been given the whole palette of human experience and human emotion. So we've got to model that for our students.
That's right. And so that's what we'll try to bring to you, too, is some color for your life. And we hope that you'll join us. We hope that you'll come and see us each time that we put one of these out, and hope that it brings you something that helps you to feel more human and to feel more centered in your life.
Yeah. We'll make sure that you have all the links to the stuff that we've shared and talked about each time. Those come up here at the end of the episode. Hey, this really felt like an inaugural episode, not a failing pilot episode.
Well, we'll see.
Inaugural. We're inaugurating some great. Seems like we ought to be breaking a champagne bottle over something. I don't know.
Over our boat.
Over our boat. We don't have a boat. Anyway, hey, we'll see you next time. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.